This is not advice. I'm not your advisor. Today, Gatorade. Let's do some questions. What should I do with my 401k accounts from previous employers? I'm in the process of changing jobs. Once that's complete, you're going to have two 401k accounts. One's 50k and one's 40. You tried doing some research, but you're confused about the pros and cons of leaving the money in the 401k accounts versus rolling them over, either into your new 401k or into an IRA. All right. It's not simple, but the differences are pretty small, so it's not like you're going to go that wrong one way or another. There's a couple differences that you should know about that are different because of the 401k versus the IRA. So one of them is the time you get taken out without penalties is actually 55 for a 401k versus 59.5 for an IRA. There's some tricks to get around the IRA age issue, but that's worth knowing if you're around that age and you want to get it out. Also, sometimes there could be more protection against liability from a 401k than an IRA. I'm not familiar enough with those rules to know exactly what the details are, but my recollection is that 401ks, if you ever got sued, have a slightly higher liability or a higher liability protection, so you get to keep more of it than an IRA does. Okay, so I looked it up. We're on Nolo, nolo.com, and it looks like ERISA plans, like 401ks, are virtually entirely protected. There's a few exceptions down here, like child support, things like that. And it looks like it's state by state for non-ERISA accounts. And in California, IRAs would be more vulnerable, and that's my understanding. So then there's some other factors, like how good are the plans? So 401ks are usually more expensive than IRAs. It's not always true. The 401ks cost money to run, and someone's got to pay that. Sometimes the employer will just pay it for you. That's really nice. A lot of times it either gets passed to the employees via either costs, and if those are just fixed costs, like you got to pay $20 a quarter to be in the plan, then it doesn't matter if you roll them in or not. You're going to pay the same fee. IRAs, you can open an IRA for free and keep it open for free. 401ks have limited investment options. IRAs, you can do whatever you want. That might be a pro or a con for you, depending on whether you want like a pre-selected option in a 401k or you want to build your own in the IRA. Obviously, the IRA is more flexible. 401k, it might have bad options, in which case everybody will be crazy not to tell you to just go to an IRA, do some research, and build some options yourself. In general, I would always roll an old 401k over into an IRA just for the flexibility. But if you got a good 401k plan, if it's not going to increase your costs very much, and if you're comfortable putting it in there, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with that. Starting my 401k. Is it really as simple as investing in the S&P 500 and forgetting about it? 401k through Fidelity. You're 30, you want to have the money when you're 60. Is it really just the best move to put it 100% in the S&P 500, and then when you get closer to 50, you start to move it towards bonds? I'm wondering if this is really the best move. Nobody knows if it's the best move. It might work out that over the next 30 years, the best asset class to be allocated to is the S&P 500. That seems really unlikely. I can certainly, over the next 30 years, some subset of the S&P 500 or some actively managed fund is going to outperform the S&P 500, and something else like foreign stocks might outperform it. The question is, can we identify that ahead of time? And most people would argue, no, you cannot. If you can't identify it ahead of time, then the question is, what's a smart thing to do? If you got a really long time horizon, like 30 years, you probably do want the account to be mostly stocks. So you got that part right. Then the question is, how do you allocate it? So the S&P 500 is large cap U.S. stocks, big U.S. companies you've probably heard of. Do you want to allocate to small U.S. companies, which might do better? Do you want to allocate to foreign companies, which might do better? Academics would say yes. And academics would even say you should have almost 50% of it in foreign stocks. You don't necessarily have to buy that. Jack Bogle, famous founder of what we know as Vanguard now, the Vanguard that we know today, he certainly would not have recommended that you have that much foreign stocks. He didn't think you need to have any. He drove the whole indexing revolution and didn't think you had to index into foreign stocks. So there's debate, and reasonable people can disagree. I think a lot of people get this misconception where they think just putting money into S&P 500 index funds is safe. Safe is certainly the wrong way to describe it. So if that's what you're thinking, that's wrong. You should probably do a little research into how big the S&P 500 goes up and down during volatile markets. But it depends what you're comparing it to. There will almost certainly be things that outperform the S&P 500 between now and then. So you just got to figure out something that works. Me personally, I've got an allocation to some small cap stocks and some foreign stocks. How does one become a financial planner? 35 years old and spent the last 10 years in a classroom teaching high school English. You become very interested in finance to the point where you think maybe something to explore. You have a wife and 2 children, so you can't quit your job. But you imagine there are paths into a career as a financial planner that wouldn't necessitate that. Not really looking to sell insurance or investment products. Is that a common starting place for people who end up in holistic financial planning? So almost everybody used to start selling insurance or being a broker. So there's a lot of people that are like 10 or 20 years older than you that have changed careers. That's where they started. These days, I'd say it's less and less common, and a lot of firms, like the ones you're looking for, financial planning firms, registered investment advisory firms, firms that are fiduciaries with respect to their clients, a lot of them don't want people that come from that industry. They don't want salespeople. So I'd say that's less and less common. And if I were you, I wouldn't want to start that way either. I would look into whether you can get an entry-level job at a registered investment advisory firm. I would go to NAPFA, NAPFA, I think it's .org, NAPFA.org. Let me double check that. Yeah, NAPFA.org. And if you go to careers and then opportunities, you can go down here and there's at least 15, and you can look for other ones, see if there's anything in your area. These might be good people to connect to, even if you don't want to apply to any of their jobs, but just getting an entry-level job as they can be called a financial analyst, financial planning analyst, paraplanner in some places, financial planning associate, it looks like, lots of different titles, support advisor. Those would all be good places to start looking. And an entry-level job at a registered investment advisory firm would be something like helping with analyses, something like doing some of the back-end work when a new portfolio comes in, and then getting more and more experience, and then eventually taking the Series 65 so you can actually give advice, and getting CFPs so you're more qualified, and then eventually doing more advising yourself. I think that's what would make the most sense. And that's what I would look into. And NAPFA is not the only place to look, but it's certainly the place that I would start. And you'd have to make the decision for yourself whether you could make enough money at an entry-level job. And you'd certainly be taking a pay cut. I think most of the entry-level jobs you probably find, depends on the area, but somewhere between like $40,000 and $60,000 a year. So yeah, good luck.